No. Okay, all right, we want to be respectful of our time with our cabinet, so with no further ado, we have Dr. Reynolds back.
So new to the room since I was here, obviously President Ann Greenberg. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. We also have the, you would think I would know her title. Lead something or other. Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Board Secretary, Ms. Deanne Chisman. I may have either promoted you or demoted you right there. I'm not exactly sure, but she's the most, this is gonna be hard, the most amazing person to work with, and she makes this easier. I'll just put it that way. And then we have Mr. Matt Droege. He's our Director of Communications and Marketing. So all those things you see on social media and all the communication comes out of his department. So thank you for being here. So a quick thing with Sue's story about me being in her master's class is that I had just recently moved here from Yuma. And so I'm taking her class. And, right, PVUSD, you just hear PVUSD, PV, Paradise Valley, PVUSD. In Yuma, they are a union school district, right? High school union, right? Just a high school district. So in my first paper that I wrote to a board member who was also my professor, I called us Paradise Valley Union School District. And she wrote on my paper, and I remember this very vividly, if you're going to work with us, you're going to need to get our name right. Okay. So anyway, I haven't made that mistake ever again. But anyway, thank you so much for having me here today. We're going to take a minute. It was funny with Julie. We're doing a lot of, she comes to me and says, I'm told this is what we used to do, right? And of course, I'm new. And I'm like, I don't know. So we got our technology figured out very, very quickly. So thank you for doing that. And we were like, this isn't working. So I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure over the last 6 weeks just to get to know you better and work together. And we've been parents in the same schools together. So it all sort of, right, comes back to that. Just quickly, we're going to do some welcome and introductions. We've already introduced our cabinet. And I think Stacy already got mentioned as well. I already mentioned Tony earlier. So then we'll talk about my journey, just so you know about me a little bit. For those of us who are just getting to know each other, I'm going to talk to you about our focus, our goals this year, some of the projects that we're going to be working on, a couple of celebrations, and then I'll throw it out to the group for questions. Sound fair? Good. All right. So quickly. 5 years is a long time, right? The last time I was here was in 2019. And when you come back, you all have been doing this here in PV for the last 5 years. I was somewhere else doing something different. And when you come back, they're like, oh, you just jump back on the bike, right? But 5 years is a long time. There are a lot of new faces. There are a lot of new people in new offices. And so when I walk around, I'm like, wait, that's not your office. That was Steve Jarris's office, right? That's not your office. That was, so it's been fun, but it's been an interesting challenge just to get to know everyone. So these are my children. In 2019, Declan, that's Fireside. Declan was a 6th grader. Bailey was a freshman, right? Think about where your kids were. Now, Declan's a junior in high school. Bailey's a junior in college, getting ready to choose medical schools and those kinds of things. And when you think, it sort of puts it into perspective, right? How long 5 years can be. Having said that, and I promised them I would not leave their pictures up there very long. Having said that, it also feels like yesterday. Right? When you spend so much time in a place, 22-ish years, there are also lots of familiar things. And there are so many of you where we worked together in the past. And so I'm in that sort of that in-between mode of trying to figure out what and where we are in PV in 2024 versus where we were in 2019. And that's been a fun challenge, but it is a challenge, reacquainting myself with the district and letting people reacquaint themselves with me. So just quickly, many of you know I grew up in Iowa, went to college in Iowa. That's where Troy and I have that, connection with the Hawkeyes. Any Hawkeyes? Oh, really? That's like the first time ever. No. So in case you want to be a Hawkeye fan, I think they start in 2 weeks. You can see them on TV. But grew up there. My father's a Methodist minister. My mom is an educator. She retired as an assistant superintendent. And so it's sort of in my blood. As I went through college, I did not want to be a teacher, and I did not want to be a minister. Those two things I knew for sure. And here I am, right? So in 1993, I graduated. I came out to Arizona. It was one of those, I don't know that I had ever actually taken a risk in my entire life. And I went to my mom and dad and said, I was contacted by the principal at Cibola High School in Yuma, who had graduated from the same college I graduated, Central College in Iowa, and I want to interview. And so I got the job, bought a Nissan Sentra, packed it up in about 3 weeks, and made my trek out to Arizona. Biggest risk that I had taken at that point in my life. So I spent 4 years at Cibola High School down in Yuma, and it was foundational for me. That school, that district, where it is located, it really ingrained in me how important it is to make sure that we are differentiating our learning, right? Our teaching for our learners, because kids are coming to us with all kinds of unique challenges. If it's, whether it's learning, whether it's their home life, whatever it is, that really ingrained in me that passion for that, that focus. And so in 1997, this name is a PV name from long ago, but John Walk went from being the superintendent of the Yuma Union High School District to becoming the principal at North Canyon High School. Some of you would say, why would you go from superintendent to principal? Invite me for coffee. I will explain to you why in many cases that's a really good move. So he came up here, asked me to come with him, and that's how I got my start in PV back in 1997. As we heard, I taught English there for, I think, 5 years-ish in room 275, second floor, right near the cafeteria, if you're ever there, and enjoyed every minute of it. I was the dean there, assistant principal there, and then became the principal at Pinnacle High School, and I was at Pinnacle for 7 years. That's where those two were born. They were little pioneers. They grew up there from the time they were little. I'd have Bailey's car seat on the golf cart as we would be driving around after school to go to different events. So when I left PV and went to take on a new opportunity, we had a conversation about where do you want to go? Do you still want to stay? And of course, they're like, what are you talking about? Right? We are pioneers. We were born here. We are going to go to school here. And so we've continued to support that all the way along and are absolutely thrilled with that. Then I was the director of curriculum and instruction here for a few years. I was the assistant superintendent of secondary. And then, as you know, I went over to the Peoria Unified School District where I retired as their superintendent. And then got a call, completely happy, golfing probably once a week, fishing once a week, driving Declan to school, to and from each and every day, enjoying life. And this opportunity came up. And so when I say that I would not have done this for any other place, I truly mean it. This is The reason why I'm here as your interim is because I have a deep passion for Paradise Valley. I have a deep passion for the culture, the traditions here. And so I'm excited to be here, and it is a fantastic place. I can promise you that. Okay, so that is my journey. Let's talk about some of the priorities for this school year. As you know, as you may not know, I think you know that part of the superintendent's responsibilities is to put together goals and objectives for the school year. And you work with the board. At our last board meeting a couple of weeks ago, our governing board approved these goals. So we work hand in hand. We started in our retreat. I'm supposed to say now the PV board retreats happen here. Not in some resort somewhere, right? We don't fly anywhere. We don't travel out of, because I guess that's a thing, right? If you've read the paper lately, we do ours right here. We have, I forgot what we had for lunch, but it was like salad to go, right? Something like that, and water. So, but we work in the retreat with these goals. I work with cabinet. They put together some of their thoughts and ideas. And then I take them to the board for their approval. And I just wanted to run through some of them with you. I wanted to run through all of them with you. So the first goal is to improve student achievement, right? It would be silly for a superintendent's goal to be anything other, first goal to be anything other than improving student achievement. We also have system-wide accreditation and improving customer service. I'm not going to read these to you. The board, there was a presentation to the board, so that's all there. I'm just giving you an idea of what or how in-depth these goals are. They are very, very targeted. As we go through here, you'll notice we don't hit, it's not first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, right? There's not a goal for every single grade level. What we did is we looked at where our strengths were, we looked at where our challenges are, and we identified those specific areas, not every single grade level. So you may say, as we get up here, where's the fourth grade goal, right? It's because in that particular area, that didn't rise to that level of priority. So as you notice, in each of the areas, we're trying to do two things. We're trying to reduce the number of students who are in our well below, right? And we are trying to increase our students who are at or above. And the reason why we want to take that two-pronged approach is because there are a lot of times where we just focus here, right? Where a lot of our attention is just getting kids to proficiency. And I know that seems, right? That seems intuitive. That seems like a normal thing to do. However, if we don't use some specific strategies with our students who are well below their benchmark, right? Targeted strategies, those kids can never catch up. It takes too long. And so we start all the way back in first grade and really working with these students so that they may not hit proficiency in second grade. They may not hit proficiency in third grade. But if we keep chipping away, right, at some of the skills that they're lacking, eventually we will get them to that proficiency mark. So first grade, you can see we're using our Acadience data. That's our internal. We don't have a statewide test for pre-K 3. So we use our own internal PV benchmark. Second grade, right? Like I said, we're not going to go through each of. Oh yeah.
I love this. What gets measured matters.
Right.
So I love that it's backed by data. One question I have is, did this then take over for what the last board and superintendent's initiatives were around STEAM and?
I'll get there. It doesn't.
Oh.
So just. No, it doesn't. You'll see some of that in just a little bit. This is just specifically in that targeted academic performance goals. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of flip through here just so you get the idea of what we're doing. So we're still in second grade, right? So we're early literacy, kids learning to read. We get to third grade. Notice we flip over to our third grade state testing. That's why the language changes. So instead of fall well below, It goes to minimally proficient. 5th through 8th grade, those are our middle years. Is this where we flip to math? Yes, thank you. So we flip to math, right? We're out of that early literacy, so now we're focused on math there. And then we get to high school and our ACT, right? All of our juniors take the ACT as their state test. And so we focus on both, on what we're trying to accomplish there. The second component of this goal will look very familiar to you because we want to keep these initiatives moving forward, right? And that is our work with MTSS, our work with PBIS, the PLCs, and STEAM. And so those are things that you should be familiar with. You heard those from Dr. Bales. They have been part of our district initiative. They are our district initiatives as we target those specific programs and how we support students and how we support teachers in the classroom. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so did the initiatives here, do they layer up to your goals, meaning you're gonna set targeted efforts backed by data that you can say, okay?
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about right now, is how a goal like this, in many cases, is just check, right? So it becomes hard to measure. Did a school do it or did a school not do it? There's not a lot of information in that, right? It does say, yes, you accomplished your goal, but I think, and I'm gonna, oh no, Jean's not here. You can? All right, so I just wanted to say that last year, right, we developed our school plans to be able to carry these out. And all of our schools are in different places when it comes to this. We have schools that have been working on STEAM for years. But we also have some schools who are just now getting into there. So as we look at our school success plans, we are now in that implementation phase. So it's not planning, right? We should see in every single school some significant work around these 4 areas. Dr. Lindsay.
Morning, everyone. As Dr. Reynolds said, each of our schools has a school success plan, and so they've been in the process right now doing the same thing, looking at their data and drilling down to identify those priorities in terms of student outcomes. And where our district initiatives come in is through our action steps. So then after they identify those priorities, they set goals and how they're going to measure their goals. And the action steps is where we make the alignment with these specific initiatives. And they're all at different places. Each campus is unique and has, unique circumstances. And some of them have new principals this year. Some of them have a very veteran staff. So we meet our schools where they are because we want them to grow in each of these initiatives. So we try to support them what that looks like. And our role, Dr. Corson and myself as assistant superintendents of leadership, we meet with our principals. They share with us their school success plans and we give them feedback. And they also have an opportunity to learn from each other too, to enhance.
Is the school success plan something you encourage them to share with their school community? Because I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yes, they're in the development phase right now. So each of our schools has a school council. So that would be part of that. And then for that team to decide how they may share that information with a larger group.
And if you happen to, be careful here, get myself in trouble. If you happen to sit on school council, right, and you meet with the principal, that's a great question to ask, right? As you go back, maybe there's an opportunity to, not maybe, when will there be an opportunity to share that out?
Yeah, I think it's great information. I would love it to be more broadly communicated, good or bad, because I agree, you're always trying to move it forward.
Right.
I have a question about our school. Even despite increased attendance, we lost half STEM this year. So it seems like that's the opposite direction.
Yeah, so what they're doing, I think we have 4 schools, looking to Dr. Holmes, that are impacted by a lack of staffing. So it is becoming increasingly difficult to find teachers for art and music. And so we're in a situation where we're trying to get through this year to the next hiring cycle so that we can get, because we leave those, I think we leave them posted, we've got them out there, but our schools have individual plans in their STEAM plan to address the arts with inside that STEAM programming. And then next spring, I think we even talked about potentially posting those very early to try to find teachers to fill those spots.
Yeah, I don't think it's a staffing issue in our business yet. Or 10 minutes for population. Enrollment.
I think what she may be getting at here is it could have to do with the allocation associated with school, which is really driven by number of students at the school. So it is a little confusing to hear you say enrollment's gone down. It's gone up, staffing has gone down. That confuses me. I'd love to look into that a little bit.
Yeah, why don't you two connect? Right afterwards.
Fair.
Any other questions? Goal number 1. All right, goal number 2. This is a short goal, but it is a huge project, right? How many of us know what Cognia is? 3. Excellent. Cabinet, come on. Okay, all right. How many of us know what accreditation is? All right. So Cognia is the group that we work with to accreditate our high schools. And what that means is every 5 years, our high schools go through a process where they do some Cognia comes in. They do some. They go through a process where they do self-reflection. They put together a plan. They have some measurements that they use to make sure that we put together a package, right, for our community in our course of study so that we can communicate honestly, accurately, transparently. Here's what we say we are doing, right? And here's when we get that accreditation, and here's the proof that what we say we're doing is what we're actually doing, right? When to be accredited, and you're required to do this because the colleges, other high schools, if you transfer from one of our high schools to another high school out of the district or out of the state, they have to be confident, right, that what the level of rigor inside our high schools is such that it is accredited and they can trust that the transcripts we have assigned or given, the credits that we have assigned inside the transcripts are legit. And so every 5 years, and this has been going on, this name changes frequently, right? But we've been doing this since forever. So what we're doing this year is we are going to go system-wide, which means pre-K 12, right? All of our elementary schools, all of our middle schools, and obviously our high schools are going through that accreditation process so that our community can be confident in the fact that what we say we're doing is what we're doing. And when we say that the level of rigor inside our classrooms is what we expect, that is actually happening. This is a giant project. It is a big, heavy lift in a very short sentence. It does not give justice to the amount of work, effort, energy that goes into this project. And Ms. Copen, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, is leading that up.
So the process is optional below high school level, like we're choosing to do accreditation?
Yes, for other, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think there are maybe 3 districts similar to us, 2. I can't remember, but there are not. We will be we'll be leading this when it comes to pre-K 12 education.
And do we think that's a marketing tool?
I think it's a great marketing tool, right? I mean, like I said, it's another way to build confidence in our community that we are accredited. We're not just, right? We're not just saying that what we do is rigorous. We have an outside organization come in and work with us, and they say that the work that we're doing inside our classrooms is rigorous and appropriate.
Sorry if I meant, did you say it's bringing us up to table stakes or it will set us apart from the districts around us?
I believe it will set us apart. I'm only aware of 2 other districts right now that are system-wide accredited, pre-K-12, right, districts. That's all I'm aware of, but there could be others. So, and I do want you to know that as we established this as one of our goals, and this began last year as we applied for candidacy to be district-wide accredited. One of the priorities that we have, and it's near and dear to my heart, and that is as much of this lift that we can do to support our teachers and our principals, we need to do from our side, right? It is it's really important work. There is work that can only be done by principals and teachers and staff, and students for that matter. But the more that we can do to ease that work from our end is absolutely critical. And how we can lead them and do a lot of the background, right? So that they're not having to dig up their data, they're not having to go through, and Ms. Copen has already and her team have done a fantastic job making sure that our principals, our teacher leaders, parents have the data they need to be able to do this with as minimal of effort as you can.
Do we know what other districts have the same type of rigor, or, you know, do we have a comparison, or do we know ours is above theirs? Because you said that there are 2 other districts that have something similar.
Yeah, so that's why we bring in this outside organization,
Yes.
right? They're the ones who come in and evaluate and say, yes, you are either at or above the level of rigor of other school districts.
Yeah, and you were saying that there's only 2 other districts that have this.
Yeah, I feel like I shouldn't have said that.
I know, that's why I was like, what do you mean by that?
So there are only a handful of districts who have decided to become system-wide accredited.
Okay.
Every high school, certainly every public high school, is accredited,
Okay,
right? Regardless of what district you are, you have to be in order for your transcripts to be accepted by colleges and universities and other schools, right? What we're talking about is going system-wide. So every single elementary, every single middle school will go through that exact same process.
Yeah, when you say, and I'm sorry, because like I'm a big seller of PV to parents.
Mhm.
Because I worked for the district for 15 years, so I would like to use this kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I like to use this kind of, so when you say like 2 other districts, are they using the same system?
Yes, we all use Cognia.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
no,
So
so
that-
I like to use.
Yeah, so I'd have to go back
You don't know.
and make sure that I have my
Are they
information.
2 other public districts?
Yes,
Or are they 2?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and one of them, I am 100% sure
Okay.
is system-wide accredited.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you're talking.
Will
about
remain nameless,
charters,
but-
but it's another public school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I'm
thank
a
you.
big defender of public schools as a special,
Yes,
former
we
special
appreciate that.
teacher. Okay.
Yeah. So it is, and it is catching on. I think it is something that down the road, we will see more and more and more of. Because it is a big lift. I mean, it's a lot of work. If you talk to any high school principal or high school team, site council, as they go through that accreditation process, it's a rigorous
You're
process
talking to-
because it's important.
You know, your parents, when you're like in your dance mom classes, or you know what I mean, and they're like having their issues, it's like, well, here, this is why I go to this school, or this is why I taught in this school. You know, you get to, get your points, and this is another tool in your toolbox.
That's right.
So
That's right.
this is great to say,
Yes.
thank you.
You're not comparing us to those 2 schools, you're saying we're on the forefront of something that only 2 other districts may have even considered.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to make sure when you said this, I can also say, you know.
Don't say two other.
No, I just, I was
That's
just,
right.
no, if anybody came back and was like, oh, well, you know, this, my school has that too, I can assure them, no, they don't.
Yeah, so it would be simple to get that information for you, and we can make sure Julie has it.
No, I
Um,
just wanted to, that's why I was
Right.
verified.
Yeah.
I have an online question for you, just to reiterate, and you did touch on it. How much of an extra workload do you expect it to be for the teachers? I know you said that the district is trying to take on as much as possible to be the least impact, but do you expect it to be still sizable, or are you really trying to like, how minimal of an impact will it be to get the accreditation from the pre-K?
Yeah, so
grade?
teachers in general will see very little when it comes to, you know, all the teachers in a school. Where the focus becomes is on those leadership teams, right? As you put together your team who's going to do this work. And so that's what I mean
Okay.
is you'll have teacher leaders who serve on, right, the committee that is going to or the work group that is going to be doing this project.
As we go through it, will they give feedback to us in terms of if we have any gaps or things we need to shore up? And then follow on to that, if we have gaps, can you still obtain accreditation with a plan to close those?
Yes,
gaps?
100%. That's one of the things, that's one of the reasons why we I flipped it. That's one of the reasons why we partner with Cognia, because they do a really fantastic job of walking us through that whole process. And so right, their first step is to, we do the pre-work, then they come in this year. Our goal is to be, to receive our accreditation in the early spring. And then they work with us throughout the years, throughout that next 5 years, once we're accredited. And we identify our own strengths and weaknesses, and then they come back and help us process through to make sure that we have success plans along the way to shrink those gaps. It's a great question. Thank you.
So I'm new, it's my first one. I'm looking through the amount of schools and I'm also looking at the district schools. So how do you prioritize the order of how we're going to go about the accreditation?
How do we, well, our high schools have to be our first priority, right? Because they have to be accredited. But we don't do it school by school. We're doing it all at once. So all schools are going through the process at the exact same time.
So where does that come from on the budget?
We've already budgeted for that, right? As we planned our budget from the previous year.
Okay. So we already have the funds for those 3 years this year?
Yeah, looking back at Ms. Berrigan, I mean, that's when we start our budgeting process. We will start our budgeting process, I'm guessing, in October-ish for the next year.
Already started.
So we start our budgeting process in the fall of the previous year. And so when we have a project like this, we make sure that the team that works with our budget has that as a priority and can budget for it. We don't throw that in that would be, Asparagus would not be happy
Not with that number.
if we did that. That's right.
Okay.
Okay, moving along. This is third goal. This might look familiar to you as well. This was one of Dr. Bale's goals last year. We're just now getting to the final stages of this. So we have been putting together our standards that over the last, I think we did that last year. And this year, it's now time to make sure that we've got those standards implemented in all of our schools, departments, so that we are constantly focused on our customer experience, to make sure that we're providing that outstanding experience for parents and students and community members, our faculty, staff, who walk through the doors every single day, feel like they're known, valued, cared for, and that's a significant priority. So this goal is the capstone of the work that has been done previously. And then if we do this right, then you'll watch, I think, depending on who's standing here next year, that will drop off, and then a new goal will come in for for that, for the district. That makes sense? So we'll finish that up. Dr. Holmes and Mr. Drogi are spearheading that, done a fantastic job getting those standards put together. And now we need to ensure that all of our staff are following this.
This kind of goes back to different goals, but there were lots of questions, so hit before. So in terms of like the student initiatives that we were talking about, our science curriculum in elementary is innovation, from what I understand, but I think, is there adoption upcoming? It's kind of help with that goal, or is it like its own separate thing with its own little class? Like, I'm kind of confused how that's putting into it.
Yeah, so the idea behind STEAM is that we incorporate all of those things inside our general ed classrooms. But I'm gonna look to the back of the room. Are we familiar with this science?
Off the top of my head, no gene adoption that will be, open to but I know that there's the 7 year schedule planned out and for science.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so a couple of things to look for as I left off an adoption. You can see that right now. A couple of things that we're focused on. So these aren't part of the superintendent's goals, right? This is separate. These are some other things that we're just keeping an eye on as we go throughout the year and in some cases putting a lot of effort towards. But we do have, you just mentioned curriculum adoptions. We have a fine arts adoption and we have a world language adoption. Okay, good. Make sure I have that correct. You can quote me on that one. And so we're going to be looking at our world languages, and we'll be looking at some fine arts supplemental materials through this year. I believe one of the committees is already being formed. Okay, thank you. So our world language work group is going to be put together and start working on those adoptions. Obviously, we have our governing board elections that are coming up in November. And so after, is it the 6th? November 6th? Yeah, November 5th. Then we'll know kind of what the makeup of our governing board will look like as they take their seats in January. We are finishing up our school repurposing work around our school closures. And so we're really trying to work with our community. We're working with other organizations so that we're utilizing our facilities in an efficient manner. We have already, got to get the names right, PV Online. Our PV Online program has already moved. And so you may see that signage in the community. So, but we have some other options that we're working through, and what does that look like, and what buildings are, usable in a variety of ways. So we'll continue our focus on that. Obviously, we continue to focus on enrollment and where we are. There is no, yes, ma'am.
Wait, for the repurposing, is that something that then gets, how does that get like announced? Or, I mean, I live in a community where one of the school recently closed, and I'm actually asked constantly because I was very involved in that school, like, oh, what are they doing with it? What are they doing with it? I'm like, I don't know. And I wasn't sure if there was some way that people are gonna hear, how will people hear about
Yeah,
that?
so
When
our first step is obviously to put together some of those options, right? And then in our October governing board meeting, our October study session, we're going to be working with our board on what some of those options might be. And then, we will continue to update the community as we move along in what programming, what options are for those facilities. Yeah.
In our budget planning, I'm sure we turned off the funding associated with those facilities. Did we plan or forecast any revenues for them this year? Revenue from like rental? Yes. No, we did not plan for any of that. Some of the school sites are being repurposed for internal use, so that wouldn't necessarily be a revenue generator. But
there are hopes for negotiations, hopefully will occur for some uses that we bring back in. And expenditures are completely turned off because we don't ever completely abandon a building, even if we're not using it yet. We ensure that the AC stays at 85 degrees so that other systems don't fail within there. We make sure that we can conserve the ground, so it's become an ongoing district. But that was all kind of what we needed.
So we continue to focus on enrollment. It is not a secret that as we look for the next 5 to 10 years, we continue to see from our demographers, based on birth rate, based on people moving into this area, a decline in enrollment. And so we continue to focus on that and manage it and make sure that we're planning for it so that we don't have any of those surprises. And then there's a big one, and whether that was directly impacting your situation at your school, we continue, just like every other school district in the state, we continue to struggle to find staff. For those of you who might have a child who rides a bus, for those of you who have a child who might be in a classroom with a visiting teacher, rather than a full-time teacher at the moment, that remains a challenge for us. And so we're continuing to work on ways to attract and retain our teachers and our staff to make sure that we can provide the high level of experience that we want to, specifically for our students and then for the adults that we work with every day. And again, Dr. Holmes and Mr. Drogi are working really hard to attract, right, people to our district, and it doesn't stop, right? I would say this with some confidence, but if somebody just moved in to PV and is a teacher or wants to work, we will get them in today, right?
Or drive a bus.
I'm saying, whatever it is you want to do, however you want to support children inside this district, you show up and we will find a spot for you, because we do have those openings. Our instructional aides, our bus drivers specifically, and then of course, the high priority obviously is our teachers inside our classrooms. So that will remain a challenge. It is not, we haven't been able to solve that one yet, but we'll continue to focus on it probably for a while, for the rest of Dr. Holmes' career. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if this fits here, or maybe it was in one of your other goals. Is there any movement or plan for the PLC Wednesday early releases for this year?
Yeah, so we're continuing to talk about that. I'm getting sort of up to speed on the conversations that took place. I think we went as far as to do a survey out to our community. And so we'll continue to work towards that. That would fall under our PLC work from yes, goal 1. Thank you. But that's going to take a bit, right, to be able to work through and make sure that we're doing that. So we continue to focus on it. We continue to have conversations around it. Whether or not that's the right thing to do this year, we'll be communicating out to our families and our staff, obviously. More time to be able to come together in our PLC work is needed. There's no doubt about that. It's just, is that the right mode to do it?
Is there a plan to reopen the school closures conversation since they fell a little bit short?
So they're planning to open up the school closure.
There was one school moved off of the
Oh,
closure list at the end.
it will remain part of the conversation. But I believe the conversations that we've had, we're talking about Hidden Hills, right? Okay, gotta make sure I get my right. It is part of the conversation for sure. But we're working with them for some strategies on increasing enrollment, making sure that giving them some time to be able to implement some things to bring that enrollment up. But it didn't just drop off the page.
We'd love to have them back.
Say that again.
We'd love to have them back in the UPC.
Yeah.
Out of the numbers for a while.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going back to the Wednesday Kelsey conversation, that was met with a lot of criticism, at least in my network and community of parents. I would love to see what we're doing.
Criticism
Just
of the process?
of the process, of the communication, of the intention, of the goals specifically, all those things wrapped up, and I think it goes into your improving communication and communicating. I would love to see a success plan for the use of the 7 half days that we have, because even the teachers and staff I've talked to, a lot of them don't find value out of the hours that we're already investing in it. And so if we're investing 7 half days today, and we're going to attempt to invest 30 more half days or whatever the increase that is how is it going to be successful?
No, yeah, that's a reasonable expectation. So I'll take that back.
I kind of feedback to like parents at our school who I know voted no for that is because they've already set their schedules for work. And so I think, if you were gonna suggest again, doing like a tiered approach where like this would take place, not like next year or like whatever, so tiered out so that parents who are working, both working parents can accommodate and not say no just because they know next year it's not capable for them.
Yeah, I was almost gonna say I guarantee. I would really hope that that is not something we would do at the last minute.
Yeah, well, because I'm just saying, when we got the survey last year,
Right.
for the next year, these people have already planned ahead. and so
Exactly.
They said they only voted no because they said, I can't do this next
That's right.
year.
That's right.
So the way it was communicated in the email, they were like, I can't accommodate this next year, no.
That's great feedback.
Yeah.
Whoever does that. Okay, I wanted to just wrap up with a couple of celebrations from our team. We have a nationally awarded assistant superintendent in the room. Ms. Jill Berrigan won the Eagle Award for ASBO, and so we're incredibly proud of the work that she does, and it's obviously well deserved. And a lot of the nomination process, if I get this correct, came from her work in developing this program within ASBO, the Women Executive Leadership Development Series. So thank you for all the work that you do. You're amazing at it, and we appreciate you very, very much. And then our marketing and communications team, Mr. Drogi's here, received national recognition for our PVSchools newsletter, the PV Beat, that many of you are aware of, our podcast. And then the video that has gone viral across the district, but Dr. Bales learning to drive a school bus, hearing the stories behind the camera of that experience. You have recovered from that, correct?
We didn't know who was driving on the freeway.
Really?
I knew when we were getting onto the freeway.
Oh, that's
He had a fantastic trainer, though.
yeah.
I know he's retired, maybe he
And
can
if
come back. Yeah, I know.
I know that the transportation department is flexible, and you can earn a CDL, which is the equivalent of about a $10,000 investment if you want to do it private.
Dr. Bales, if you're watching. So two wonderful celebrations that are district wide. We're really focused this year on celebrating the work that we do. So much of the time that when we're in the grind, when we're doing the work, we forget, take a minute and celebrate the work that UPC does, celebrate the work that our teachers are doing, our administrators, celebrate. You know, we do a really good job of celebrating the work our kids do, right? But we forget that it's important to take a minute and celebrate the work that the people who are inside the schools, the people who are outside the schools, our parents, the work that you're doing, and celebrate that we're all in this together. And it's super important to me. It's part of my core belief system that we are all in this together, right? We are a team, whether it is our students, whether it's our parents, our teachers, staff, administrators, We have to be doing this work together. And whether it's at the very lowest levels of decision making, we need to make those decisions, having the right people, the people who are most impacted by those decisions around the table. And that we have a great communication system so that everyone in our district feels as though they're known, valued, and cared for. And we also want to add on to that they're challenged, that we're working every day to get better. So I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your questions. I'll just stop right there in case there are any other questions outside of our discussion today.
All right, well.
Thank you very much.
See y'all next month.